EU going beyond own rules to make life difficult for UK in active vengeance for Brexit. The EU is going beyond what is required by its own rules to make life difficult for Brexit Britain, it has been claimed. At the end of last month, President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen warned the EU will not hesitate to use the real teeth in the Brexit deal to punish the UK government for breaching its obligations. As MEPs prepared to vote on the historic agreement, Ms. von der Leyen said, "This agreement comes with real teeth, with a binding dispute settlement mechanism and the possibility for unilateral remedial measures where necessary. And let me be very clear, we do not want to have to use these tools, but we will not hesitate to use them if necessary. They are essential to ensure full compliance with the Trade and Cooperation Agreement and with the Withdrawal Agreement, which both were negotiated in such fine details and agreed by both sides." Since the end of the transition period on January 1, the UK government has been accused of breaching its commitments in Northern Ireland and on an agreement on fisheries. According to political journalist James Forsyth, though, in some areas, the EU is going beyond what is required by its own rules to make life more difficult for Brexit Britain. He wrote, "The EU is clearly within its rights to treat Britain as a third country, as that is, after all, the reality of the new UK-EU relationship. But in some areas the EU is going beyond what is required by its own rules, making, for example, the export of bivalve mollusks, such as oysters and mussels, more difficult than it needs to be." Mr. Forsyth claimed one of those involved in discussions with the EU about this issue reportedly complained that they're going out of their way to make a point, and that their motivation is how do we prove that Brexit is a mistake. Moreover, one experienced government Brexit hand described it as an act of petty vengeance. Earlier this year, the EU told British fishermen they face being indefinitely banned from exporting live mussels, oysters, clams, cockles and scallops from large swathes of Britain's waters because it is now a third country. Countries that don't meet the EU standards have to purify their catch domestically before exporting. The process adds significant costs and delays, and is particularly impacting fishermen in Wales and the southwest of England. George Eustace, the Environment Secretary, said the ban was quite unexpected and really indefensible, telling BBC Radio 4's Today programme, "The truth is, there is no legal barrier to this trade continuing, both on animal health grounds and on public health grounds. There is legal provision within existing EU regulations to allow such trade to continue from the UK. We are just asking the EU to abide by their existing regulations, and not to seek to change them." Mr. Forsyth also mentioned the Northern Ireland Protocol, citing Michael Martin, the Irish Taoiseach, as saying in February, "This isn't an ongoing battle between the UK and some of the bigger beasts of Europe. Let's move away from that. They need to cool it." The political journalist noted the fact Mr. Martin felt the need to say this despite the irritation it was bound to cause in some EU capitals was highly revealing. He added in his piece for The Spectator, his comments hint at Dublin's concern that some EU states are more interested in proving a point than the situation in Northern Ireland. What the EU and the UK need to realize is that they will both be better off if the other succeeds. Earlier this month, Northern Ireland's Economy Minister Diane Dodds accused the EU of trying to punish the country. She highlighted the continuing difficulties businesses in the region were having bringing in goods from Britain as a consequence of new red tape required under the terms of the Northern Ireland Protocol. The protocol, which was incorporated into the Brexit Withdrawal Agreement to help avoid a hard border on the island of Ireland, has left Northern Ireland tied to a range of EU customs and regulatory rules. The UK and EU are at loggerheads on efforts to reduce some of the bureaucracy the arrangements have created. Responding to an Assembly question, Ms. Dodd said, "In relation to the protocol, we must absolutely sort out the damage that the protocol is doing to those supply chains and those businesses that I write weekly to Lord Frost about and the difficulties they are encountering with their trade from GB to NI. Many of the difficulties that businesses encounter are not because of Brexit, they are actually because of the protocol, and they're because parties in this House voted and have stridently asked for the rigorous implementation of that protocol. So we really do need to look at the whole picture for investment in Northern Ireland, and we need to offer people a holistic view of what Northern Ireland